Hi, good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us today. I am Jeffrey DeRose, Director at the CSI Tech Incubator. One second, I just want to spotlight myself for the recording. Perfect. Yes, I'm Jeffrey DeRose, Director at the College of Staten Island Tech Incubator. And we're here today to have Dimitri DeRose, one of our speakers, come and speak to you guys about building a career in software engineering. It's actually great to see the student turnout for this event, and we hope to continue to provide more events that help you guys build the careers you want and also get to learn from the people you like to learn from. So with that being said, thank you for being here. And Dimitri, I'd like to let you just introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dimitri DeRose. I am a software engineer working for Meta. Specifically, I'm working with the Oculus team for their party chat. So yeah, that's just a short introduction.
Thank you. Great. So just a little housekeeping, for now, it's just going to be me and Dimitri talking. If you guys have any questions, you can drop them in the chat and we'll maybe answer them as we go along. But towards the end of the conversation, we'll definitely have time for Q&A with students. So once again, thank you guys, and we could get it kicked off. So yes, Dimitri, thank you for joining us today. And why don't you just start off with just a little bit of a background on yourself, who you are and how you became a software engineer?
Oh, sure. So I would say, I'm sure like many people, back in high school, I was thinking about what career path I wanted to take. I noticed I like to play video games a lot, so I decided that maybe being a computer science major was the right path, and maybe one day make a game. So that was really my main purpose of become a computer science major and eventually become a software engineer. Um, I went to Binghamton University and graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science. Then for my first year, what I did was I actually joined a company called FDM Group. And there, they gave me some training. This was right after the 2008 recessions. So there wasn't a lot of jobs for newbies, so entry levels developers. So you just had to find a way to find a job back then. So what I did was pretty much did a boot camp. Did that for 6 months. They gave me some skills in Java and also taught me some frameworks and other important technologies that I would need to land a job. Um, Eventually, after the boot camp, I actually got a job offer with Hewlett Packard HP, and then I moved to Detroit, Michigan, and spent a year there working for HP. There, I was a services and information developer. So they've sent us to HP client sites, and my first client was General Motors. So I went in, wrote 2 Java applications for them to help streamline how they process contracts. And after a year, decided Detroit was too cold for me, so moved down to Dallas, Texas, and spent the next 5 years over there. And I work with American Airlines um, as a HP's consultant. And after those 5 years, decided to move on to greener pastures. So I joined USAA Bank for 1 year. And then the following year, I went to JP Morgan. I continued to be a Java developer at those 2 stops. And I would say at JP Morgan, I work on a payments platform. So my team was in charge of making virtual accounts for companies and building out the payment systems for them as well. And then after that, after 3 years at JP Morgan, I joined Facebook, which is now Meta. And so this is my first full year. My first year anniversary was in January. So I've been with the parties team, adding features and enhancements to their party chat. So yeah, that's my career so far.
No, that's excellent. You've definitely had quite the illustrious career. And can you maybe talk to us about how you've built your career, right? There's so many engineers out there, so many programmers who are fighting to get the position you have, right? Working at JP Morgan, working at now Meta. How were you able to build yourself up to make yourself actually attractive to these caliber of companies?
Sure. So I would say the most important things for I would say for the people in this chat right now is make sure you understand your algorithms and data structures because you're going to need them. They'll go a long way with helping you in your career if you want to be a software engineer. Because once you have that foundation, it's going to be very easy for you to go pick up new languages and also utilize new technologies. So you need to start with that foundation first. That it was something that I learned to work on, get better at as I went throughout my career. I would say the second most valuable uh, piece of information I could give you is definitely join LeetCode, or if not LeetCode, you could go to HackerRank or any of these websites that go have like little coding competitions and let you do little coding tidbits. So they support plenty of programming languages. They even give you tutorials. And so just do those, just do one or two a day when you're going through your interview process. But if you're not going through the interview process, just try to do it once or twice a week. And it will definitely help you improve your skills because there's plenty of people doing it as well. And then you'll get to learn from them and see like what type of code they're actually how efficiently they're writing their code and how you can improve your coding style as well. So I highly recommend those two sites. There's other sites like Top Coder or Coding Ninjas and stuff. So well, feel free to use whatever you like. But me personally, I was using HackerRank and LeetCode for that. After that, work wise, I would say when you start your first projects, everything's gonna be new and everything's gonna be exciting. So you gotta learn from that because everything is just brand new. But usually after a year or two, you get used to the code base. So then that's when you start looking for ways you can improve yourself. I know for me, some things I did was I would go on udemy.com and buy coding classes. I learned Android and iOS development that way. I did try to create two companies with a friend. We didn't get to successfully do it, but that was fun for me to just learn Android and iOS and actually get into mobile development because I wasn't a mobile developer at the time. I was just more of a full stack web developer. So that gave me a good entry point into mobile development. Um, on top of that, don't be afraid to join meetup groups. When I was in Dallas, Texas, I joined a VR meetup group, and actually for about a year and a half, they went and taught me the basics of VR and how to actually write VR code using Unity or Unreal Engine, so whichever you prefer. Unity is a free option, so you guys could use that right now. And just being exposed to VR, actually putting on the original Oculus headset and original HTC Vive and stuff gave me interest in VR. I also joined other meetup groups to learn about cloud computing because I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to cloud computing, go into VR, or I also went to mobile development meetup groups. So don't be afraid to do that as well. Just expose yourself to different fields out there because there's plenty of opportunities out there. You don't have to just work at Meta or Facebook. You could go to a fintech startup. You could go to in the healthcare industry, and there's a lot of meetup groups. They meet up, and they're more than willing to expose people to that. So those were the top three things I think that helped me outside of that. And another thing that I did for a little bit was did a little bit of open source programming. I'm sure that's something anyone could do right now, which is just join an open source group and do a little coding there just to learn how to work with other people and build a product. So,
Can you just define what open source programming is, or what an open source project, just in case there's people who
oh,
don't know?
oh yeah, sure. Open source project, those are usually projects that um, developers volunteer their time and go ahead and create a product. Say, for example, the Google Chrome browser, right? They have an open source project called Chromium, and through that project, a bunch of developers go find bugs and fixes for Google Chrome, and then Google implements that sometime. For example, that'd be an example of an open source project. There's thousands of them, so they're in all sorts of fields. So don't be afraid to join any of those if you want as well.
That makes sense. And just to recap what you're saying, right? It seems like, and if I can ask, I should know this, but how many years do you have of coding experience before I make my statement? Like
Oh,
7 years
sure.
of professional?
Professional, I have I guess it's 9.5 years now of coding experience. Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
No, that's excellent. And I just want to point out there for the students, right? Learning does not stop when you graduate and get your degree, right? You're someone 9 years in the game, coding, working at some of the top companies. And I remember seeing you in the house. For the record, this Dimitri is my brother, and he's studying very hard, up late every day, studying his algorithms, studying his data structures, 9 years in, still learning, still developing his skills. And that's something I really want you guys to walk away with, right? If you guys really want to become top developers, top coders, there's no secret sauce. It's just going out there and learning. And also, like Dimitri said, immersing yourself in different groups and immersing yourself into different technologies and finding what you like and experimenting, you know. So that's some great advice that you gave, Dimitri. Just committing yourself to lifelong learning in the field. What about soft skills? I think it's important, to know the technical things, but what about, what role did developing your soft skills play in helping you advance your career?
Sure. I would say for soft skills, I guess for me, I guess I was always like whenever I did group projects and stuff, I was always one of the team leaders. So always prided myself on being one of those leaders. So that helped me a lot with soft skills. Being able to uh, do presentations whenever I did a CS project, or even if it was outside of computer science class, just making sure I go out there, prep, um, watch some YouTube videos on how there's plenty of professional speakers out there. So they'll go ahead and give you tips on how you can go talk and deliver messaging that will be impactful to people. Uh, I didn't personally do this, but I had coworkers. They went and joined the local Toastmasters group to help uh, improve in their public speaking because they felt that was something they lacked. Um, and even like when you join a company, there's actually groups where or seminars where they'll go ahead and help you work on that as well. Help you learn how to build a presentation, like whether it's a PowerPoint presentation or say just like you want to do a speech. So they'll go ahead and offer that as a class for the employees. So like feel free to take advantage of those things if you want to improve your soft skills as well. Don't be afraid to network. When I joined the VR meetup group, made sure to network with a lot of people, and that really helped me a lot in my career. Um, And at the end of the day, just be confident in yourself. So just even if you're afraid in the beginning, uh, don't let that fear stop you. So like I'm not an extroverted person like my brother, right? I'm more introverted, but I still, find ways to communicate effectively to people. So that's what my advice to everyone would be.
Yeah, no, that's some great advice, and I think soft skills are very important. And what role does maybe like interview? What role does soft skills maybe play in the interview process? Do you feel like that's something that these big companies are looking at very closely when in your first entry level jobs, or it depends on the role more so?
I would say during the interview process, they're mostly looking for how effective you are able to communicate because at the end of the day, you're working on a team. So you have to be able to communicate with the team members. And they're also looking how you're going to fit in with the team. So, you know, they're less likely to bring someone in who's abrasive. So, see, you have to make sure that you're a team player and also like you can communicate, because at the end of the day, if there's any issues, they're gonna they're gonna need you to be effectively communicate what are those issues. If and so those can be resolved. So um that's my overall advice when going through the interview process. I mean, um, they're going to ask you a lot of behavioral questions, but there'll be simple stuff like, like what would you do if, um, oh, sorry about that. Someone's calling me. Let me stop them.
No problem.
Yeah, that's the problem with having Facebook on all your devices. Won't stop calling you.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. No, so this is all good feedback, and I actually have a question for you. If you could go back to maybe your freshman or sophomore year of high school, knowing what you know now about the field and what you need to do to make yourself successful, is there anything you would have done differently when you were in college to build yourself up?
Um, Actually, I think I would have made changes in high school because when I
Okay.
went to college, I didn't know how to code. So that actually put me behind everyone else that didn't know how to code. And so if I would if I was able to go back in time, I would definitely learn to code when I was high school, even if it's just basic HTML or CSS, just to and JavaScript, just to have that foundation. Because I guess everyone knows from this group that the the first time you're coding is very steep. It's a very steep learning curve. So if I could have just done that in high school, that would have helped me a lot in college. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. So let's just dive a little bit deeper into the interview process. What is it like going out to get your first job, or let's not even talk about the interview process. What is like getting your first job or your first internship as a software engineer?
Sure. I actually interned as an infrastructure engineer for my internship, so it wasn't a software engineer. So that
Okay.
was a little different. But my first job was a software engineer job. So that experience was really good. But I would say um what what I would advise um everyone here to do is just first start out as a full stack developer. Don't try to go to the back end or front end. Just learn the full stack. So that way, in 1 or 2 years, you could decide if you just want to be a back end engineer or a front end engineer, or if you just want to go somewhere else. Like if you just want to switch to mobile development or web development or AR, VR, whatever. So, I would say just try out just try out as much as you can in the beginning. So then you could decide what you want to be an expert in because there was always going to be opportunities out there, and you might not know that what's the best opportunity is for you in the beginning. So I would say just go ahead and try out all sorts of things, and don't be afraid to make mistakes, because you're going to make a lot of it. Guess what? Your senior level folks are going to make a lot of mistakes as well. So don't worry about making mistakes. Just make sure you learn from them. Don't do them again, and just build upon on what you're already doing. So those are the main advice I would give when you're first starting out.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would say over time, after 1 or 2 years, start trying to learn more about the system design. That's something I wish I'd done when I was early in my career. It's more later in my career. I've been more focused on that, but that will help you a lot as well.
What is
Because
system design, by the way, just for the people in the room
sure,
who may not know?
sure. So for example, um, if you're building a house, right? So there has to be an architect that comes in and actually build the design of the house, right? So whenever anyone builds a product, like for example, I'll just give Facebook.com. Facebook.com is just not a website, right? There's a bunch of other products that work together to make Facebook.com work, right? So
Mhm.
there's going to be a software architect that goes ahead and design that everything from end to end, and just to make it so that Facebook.com works. And so learning the system and learning how to build systems is very important as you get further along your career, and especially when you want to scale it up. And scalability, for those who don't know, means that you're making it so that, say, for example, one day you only have 10 users, but you know 6 months later you have 1,000 users. Maybe 2 years later you have 100,000 users. So building a system where that as you add more users, is you're able to still use that system is very important. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And then before we go to Q&A, I maybe just want to ask, you know, any interview tips you have for the students, and then I want to let them go and ask you questions. We have a lot of questions in the chat.
Oh,
I'm
sure,
seeing.
sure. Um, interview tips. I guess for now, I would, since the industry is mostly doing a lot of lead code like interviews, I would say practice that. Just being able to do lead code medium question within 15 minutes. In the beginning, it will be hard, right? It's going to take you like an hour to do it, but once you do enough of them, you'll learn how to recognize patterns, and then you'll be able to do it within like 20 minutes. So don't fret if like the first time you do it, you can only do one question and it takes you over an hour. It happens to all of us. Um,
Mhm.
but I want to be honest, there's a lot of companies that do the lead code questions, but there's a lot of companies they don't do that either. What they do is, like, for example, if they're looking for a, say, Java developer or Python developer, they'll go ahead and base their questions specifically on that language, because they're looking for a specific type of developer. While
Mhm.
there's other companies, they don't care what language you know. They more care about, okay, because they just think like, okay, this person will probably be able to learn any language as long as they have the fundamentals down. So they care more about, do you know your data structures, your algorithms, how good are you solving at these lead code like questions, because they're more about, they don't care about the language, but they're more about how can you implement a efficient solution in a short amount of time. So those
Mhm.
are the two types of interviews you will run into during your interview process. So just like if you say like you're a Python developer, make sure like the fundamentals of Python, like the basics, and also practice those lead code style questions as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. So just to recap, you got, I think the biggest thing I'm walking away with is, you really got to hone your skills, so of course, what you guys are learning in the classroom is great, but make sure that you are taking time on your own to study your data structures and master them, study algorithms and master them, work on coding challenges where you get good at problem solving. Even myself, I was coding at one point. I used to be on HackerRank like every day, getting better with my problem solving skills. And I think these are the major things employers are looking for. So with that being said, I actually just want to open up to Q&A. I know we have a bunch of questions. I actually see Jonathan's hand is raised. Jonathan, if you want, you can unmute yourself and turn your camera on to ask your question. Jonathan Libovici. Maybe Jonathan is not here at this moment.
No,
I'm
he's here. He's here.
Okay.
I wasn't able to do it because you had to allow it. So I was trying to type it really quick, but I had a bunch of misspellings.
No problem.
So forgive the mess in my room. I'm using my sister's room as an office. So
No worries.
my question is for system design. I also mentioned 2 other questions in the chat, so I have 3 questions. But for system design, is it just creating like a diagram, like a UML? Because we've been doing that, in 326, where you create the UML and understand the components and functions and what's going to go in it and stuff like that. And then ERDs, like your interrelationship diagrams and creating those. Does that classify system design, or are you talking about like hardware? Like, okay, this piece of hardware is going to help us to scale our additional 10 users, additional 100 users, 1,000 users, so on and so on.
So it's actually a combination of system design is actually a combination of software and hardware, right? Like you will need more hardware eventually if you need to scale, right? But that doesn't mean you can't write your code in a way that it also helps with scalability as well. So that's why they're looking for people who write code efficiently, because if you could write code efficiently and maximize the hardware, then they could buy less hardware, for example. So that's why it's a combination of the two. But also system design is also based on whatever is like the use case, right? Right. One system design makes sense in one use case, but it doesn't make sense in another use case. So that's why it's just good to have a general idea of what you want to build and first, and then you build your system design based on that.
Okay, and then I had 2 more other questions I mentioned in the chat earlier on when you mentioned about having specific meetup groups and stuff like that. How do you find time with your busy schedule to constantly find things to learn? Because you work for Facebook. Facebook, I know, is a very heavy load. How do you find time to learn about something? For example, you're in VR. How do you learn about cloud computing? Because it is interesting, and VR is interesting. How do you find time to balance?
Yeah, sure. Well, to be frank, I was doing those research before I joined Meta, so it wasn't like I was in Facebook and I was trying to do those things. But I would just say like what I did in the past was like, after work, if there was a meetup group that met up once a week, I'll make sure that for after work, I'll go meet up with that group, right? It's only one day, it's only one evening I'm sacrificing, I don't want you guys to like burn yourself out and then join like 6 meetup groups and then you have no life. So it's also important for you to still have your life, but just choose one at a time. Maybe for 3-4 months you go to a VR meetup group, another 3-4 months you go to a say cloud one, right, to learn more about cloud development, etc. So don't try to burn yourselves out either. I still want you guys to have lives, but just make sure to make a little time to learn something new on the side. Yeah.
Okay, can I jump in on that question as well?
Sure.
One thing too is that you gotta look at Dimitri as he's someone who's been in the industry for almost 10 years, right? So he's not someone who learned all these things overnight. It's literally 10 years of learning, right? Spread it out over 10, so, when you're on the other side of 10 years, it's like, oh my God, I learned all these things. But as you're hearing, he's just taking these things at a time, little by little, on his free time, on his weekends, one evening a week. So just like she's saying, right, you don't need to burn yourself out. And you guys have so much time ahead of you, right? You're getting advice with someone with 10 years of experience that you can apply to your lives today, and you have another 10, 20, 30 years of learning in front of you. So I'm gonna say that you have a lot of time.
So I just have one more question before I let someone else take over and ask their questions. For understanding, efficiency and like, for system design, stuff like that, how well do you think someone should know like big O notations, or if that's a big thing?
I would say for an interview process, that's a very big thing. They will ask you that, but it's more of, you should when you're writing your code, you should understand what the big O notation is when you're writing your code. It's very rare they're just gonna ask you, hey, what's the big O of, say, I don't know, Dijkstra algorithm or some other algorithm. That's not what they're gonna ask. They're gonna see you write code and be like, hey, what's the big O notation of this? And then, you should be able to tell them what it is. And then they might ask you like, hey, can you improve on this? Like if it's O of n squared, can you make it O of n log n, or O of n, or O of 1? So they will ask you those type of questions. And so it's important, but that's why I asked you guys to do the LeetCode, because that will show you how to actually improve your algorithm skills in implementing algorithms.
Do you have any recommendations where I can find good YouTubes to understand big O?
There's actually and one thing I used was Harvard and MIT. Is it Harvard or MIT? There's an open mock system where they'll give their free CS courses from 2015. I think the latest one is 2020, and they'll have a session on big O notation. So I mean, it's from Harvard, so that's pretty good. So but there's simpler ones as well if you want less of a formal education on that. You could I believe if you go to the learning session in LeetCode, they have that. Yeah.
Okay. No, thank you. That was good. Thank you for your question, Jonathan. I just want to jump to the next person. Chibuzor Okoye. I hope I'm saying your name properly. Do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question? You had a question about VR.
Yeah, and you said it correctly. But my question really was that how did you get into VR? I'm looking at videos and stuff. I'm not really sure how to approach it or anything. I know you said you went to meetups and stuff for it, but where did you really get the what I'm trying to say is where did you really start? Where did you start for it? Where did you start for VR?
Yeah. Oh, okay. I understand your question. Honestly, the meetup group was where I learned the basics, because they actually told me what I needed to learn. So that was my reason to go into the meetup group. And so that's why I was saying, if you guys want to say build a VR application, it's actually the same as building a game, actually. So you can just go on unity.com, and they actually have tutorials how to use the Unity engine, and then you could develop VR on that. It's just like a flick. There's a checkbox, and then they'll make the game into a VR. But there's that's not the only way to build VR applications, or I should say VR AR applications. like Snap has an AR stuff API. So that's why you see all those filters. That's AR, augmented reality. Who else? Android has an API for that, and actually for what I do for work, we're mostly using Android to code what we're doing in VR. But I would say the simplest way to build a VR application is Unity. So if you want to start out there, use Unity.
Nice, thank you. Just one last thing. What did you work on while you're in your coding meetup or your VR meetup?
Yeah. So since I didn't know anything about VR, what I did was learn about Unity. And then I met a guy there, and then he wanted to create a game. So I thought I took it as an opportunity to learn how to create a game. So I started meeting up with him once a week, and we actually made a game, and he put it out in the Amazon store. Um, and so
Is it still there?
yeah, it's still there, but it's so old that it's like it's not even like worth playing. But I downloaded a copy. Actually, I stored it somewhere, so I have that memory of developing that game. It's called Insanity Cube, if you can find it.
Insanity. I'll make a note of that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your question. We have Mohammed. Next, Mohammed, if you want to unmute yourself and turn your camera on to ask your question.
Yes. So I just had a question about, just out of curiosity, like what were the things you had to like adapt in terms of like going from US Bank, working in US Bank, JP Morgan to like going to Meta in terms of like coding and also work culture? What were the differences like?
Yeah, sure. So I would say the biggest culture shock was going from HP to other companies to banks, because you're in a tech company and things are completely different there. I would say, like, in general, in a tech company, things are more, I shouldn't say laid back, but they're not as stringent. Like when you're working at a bank, because you're dealing with people's money, people are very serious about their money, so everything is very conservative. And so I would say they're very cautious about you pushing any changes out, and so it slows down the development process, because you have to make sure you don't make any mistake when it's dealing with other people's money. And then I would say the other big cultural difference working at a bank is, when you're working at a bank, the technology team is expense. When you're working at a tech company, the technology team is an asset, and they're going to treat you as such. So that doesn't mean it's wrong or good or bad, right? Because like at a bank, the people that bring in the money are the bankers. So they're the ones that get paid the most, and they acquiesce the company towards them. While the developers, they bring in some money, you'll get some money, but you won't get as much money as the bankers. While in the tech company, it's completely opposite. The tech people get the most money, for example, and they get the most benefits. And so that's really the main cultural differences. But that doesn't mean it's bad to work at a bank or bad to work at a hospital or somewhere else. At the end of the day, they're all going to pay you well, and as long as you feel like the culture aligns with your values, then that's fine, right? There's no right or wrong answer for that.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, no, that was a great question. Who do we have next? Next we have Justin Thomas. If you want to turn your mic on and turn your camera on. Justin Thomas. Oh, I gotta ask on you, maybe.
browser is not letting me in.
Oh, okay. So I'll ask your question out loud. Let me just go to it. What year did you apply for your first internship, and when was your first interview?
Oh, okay. So my first internship was, let me see, had to be 2009. 2009 and 2010. I went to Church Pension Group in Midtown Manhattan.
I remember
Um,
those days.
and I was working with the infrastructure team there. So I spent the 2 summers there. It was pretty cool. I learned a lot about infrastructure and networking and stuff. But well, when I went back to school for my 5th year, I was also a math major as well. But then I decided to drop math after. I just had 2 more classes, but I just refused to finish it. But but yeah, that's why I went for a 5th year. But in my 5th year, I just decided I wanted to be a software engineer and not work on the networking side of things. Um, so I didn't do any software engineering internship, but my first job was with HP. First interview, I guess internship wise, it was Church Pension Group. It was pretty easy because it was an internship. Um, Now, when I graduated school, I went through a lot of interviews, had some with headhunters. Headhunters are third-party companies that reach out to you to find like a headcount for a corporation, say like, Deloitte Bank or something. So it's not Deloitte Bank directly hiring you, it's another company. Had interviews with them, had direct interviews with a bunch of companies, but back in 2011, it was still right after the financial crisis, so it was very hard to get a job in New York City if you didn't have experience or if you didn't go to any of the top schools. That's why I ended up moving to Detroit.
Okay, great question. Next we have Ruslan or Ruslan. I hope I'm saying your name properly. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi. No, you said it right. So my question was in terms of the dress code during the interview, because I have had interviewers dress very casually while I was in the professional clothes, no tie though. So what's the ideal dress code during interviews, either remote or in person?
Sure. I would say for most companies, you you could be casual, but I would say if you're interviewing with a bank, I would say dress more business casual at least. I know for me, I always like to wear a tie, a suited tie to interview. But that's just my preference. I know most people don't like wearing those at all. So just be safe, do business casual, like a polo, little button up, and like dress pants. Uh, that that's always a good way to make a good first impression. I would say if it's like a tech company, they really don't care. You could be as casual. Just don't be like crazy, like half naked or something. But other than that, yeah, it should be fine.
Got it. Thank you. So basically, outside of business companies or anything like that, professionally dressed kind of way, and other ones is just polos are fine.
Yeah, exactly. I would say even a bank, you could just wear business casual.
Okay, because
They
I
only
know sometimes it's fine if you overdress, but I also don't want to severely overdress and like everyone's just there casually.
Yeah. No, it's fine. During the interview, they're actually okay if you're overdressed. To be honest, they don't care. They'll just tell you like, hey, you don't have to dress that way when you're working here. So, uh, I think only if you're like going to join a team where like say like a client is going to constantly be seeing you, then they want you dressed up all the time. But other than that, most places that won't be the case, so you won't have to have that requirement.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, great question. We have Sam T next for questions. If you want to
Hi.
unmute.
Hi, my question is about front-end development. Do you need to have knowledge of UI design, or do you generally like get handed a blueprint from a UI developer?
I would say in the beginning, I mean, you could have some, it's good to have some knowledge of UI design, but usually in the beginning, they know you're green, so you'll be force-fed like easy stuff in the beginning. So I wouldn't worry too much about like knowing complete UI design, but it doesn't help. It doesn't hurt to know it. So like
If I just stuck with like Bootstrap or like Material, is that okay? Is that like good enough?
yeah, I would say that's fine. But to be honest, it depends on the company, right? There's plenty of companies that don't use Bootstrap or Material. So I mean, you'll have to learn whatever they're using for UI. So, you know, that's what I would say. So just knowing basic CSS and HTML would actually just be helpful for you. And then yeah, if the company uses Bootstrap or Material, then yeah, you already know it. So then that's be easy for you. But if they don't, then you'll have to learn whatever they're using, but you won't need to know like full UI design in the beginning.
Okay, because I go on like CodePen and I see these crazy like CSS animations. I don't need to do all that, right?
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't think so. Yeah.
All right, great.
Unless you just join a company that does that.
Yeah, no, I actually hate design. That's why I'm asking. Like, I like front-end development, but I hate designing. So it's good to know that I don't have to really, know too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, good question. We have a I don't want to mess up this name. Amin Haniel Moncayo. If you want to unmute yourself.
Hey,
Okay.
Jeff, he mentioned he won't be able to unmute himself, so if you want to read it out for him.
Okay, no problem. I don't know if it's a he or a she. But what is a strategy that you implement whenever you come across a really hard obstacle, and when was a time that you couldn't?
Sure. Well, there's plenty of times I couldn't. So first thing I do whenever I can't figure out something, your best friend is Google. So do a Google search, and there's plenty of developers that probably ran into that same problem. So just go on there first. If that doesn't give you the answer, don't be afraid to tap on the shoulders of your teammates to help you out with that, because that's what they're there for. So it's a partnership. There will be things that you'll know that they won't know, and vice versa. So usually I go to them. If they don't know, then we'll go somewhere else. Maybe someone on some other team knows that answer and can help. So there's usually a way to resolve an issue, and maybe someone doesn't give you like 100% of the answer, and they only give you like 60%, but just getting that 60% helps you get closer to your goal, and maybe that's all you needed to figure out the other 40%. So that's usually what I do. I go on Google first. I can't find it on Google, then I'll utilize the resources around me to find an answer.
Should we recommend Stack Overflow for helping finding answers?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, Stack. When you Google Stack Overflow should be the first thing that pops up. But I don't want to just say Stack Overflow. Sometimes the answer is you don't need to go Stack Overflow. You could just go to the API or something. Yeah.
Gotcha. Or just because we have
Stack,
a hard
yeah, and Stack Exchange. Yep, that's correct. That also helps.
And that's because we have a hard stop at 4. I just want us to maybe just run through these last few questions, Dimitri.
Sure.
So it's maybe quick responses. We have Joseph Medaglia. Sorry. Do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question out loud?
Yeah, hi Dimitri.
Hey.
Basically my question is, do you currently program in like one language or more than one language?
The team I'm with now, we have 3 languages: C++, Hack, which is PHP, and Android, which is Java. But I'm mostly doing Android and Hack right now. On occasion, I use C++. Yeah, but it's good to know multiple languages, I would say, just to be well-rounded.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep. Now we have Simon Christian. If you want to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, my question was, do companies still require whiteboarding during interviews, or is that reserved for system design questions and junior, senior level engineers?
Yeah, so during the pandemic, they did whiteboarding on Google Docs or some other application. But I would say they still do it a little bit, but I'm not sure like what the new model will be, because pre-pandemic, yeah, they were still doing it, but I'm not sure how they're doing it post-pandemic.
Okay, thank you for the question. Lastly, we have Asper Noma. If you want to unmute yourself and ask your question. Oh, they don't have a mic. I'll ask it out loud. Do companies look at the GPA, or GPA is not important? Also, is there any difference about which college I graduate from? I'm guessing this person is referencing to towards interviewing.
Sure. GPA, for the most part, they don't ask. So I would say only once I remember being asked my GPA, like during my previous 9.5 years of interviewing. Other than that, I wasn't asked my GPA. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. What was the other question?
Let me pull it up. Is there any difference about which college this person graduated from?
Yeah, most companies don't care where you graduate from, to be honest, because now they're streamlining the interviews to like do LeetCode style interviews and stuff. So they don't care about that per se when you're going through the interview process. I don't know, like during the filtering out process of resumes, they still care or not. I don't think so, but it might still matter. But once you go through once you start the interview process, that doesn't matter. They don't care.
Yeah, and you know what? I maybe just want to put this out there, that it seems like, they don't care about the GPA and the school you come from, mainly because, right, how they hire you is based on like these coding challenges, right? And they just really want to see, can this person do the work? Can this person write efficient code? Can this person write scalable code, etc., right? And you kind of get those through those coding challenges. Would you say that's fair to say, Dimitri?
Yeah.
So yeah, you guys, make sure you focus more. Of course, you want to get the best grades as possible, because that always helps you, but it's really about the skills and mastering those skills and getting good at coding and stuff like that. So do you have any closing remarks? I know it's about to be 4, and I know we have a hard stop for the students to get back to class, but any closing remarks you want to say as we send these students on their way?
Sure. I was actually going to type this on chat. There's a book I would recommend for interviewing. It's called Cracking the Coding Interview by Gail McDowell. Definitely, if you can, grab that book, because that's like the Bible with helping you prepare for interviews. And combine that with your LeetCode, that'll be helpful. Oh, yep, someone already posted it in the chat. Thank you. Also, I want you guys to just feel like you have you have your whole future ahead of you. Don't be afraid to go ahead and experiment and venture off to different avenues. And don't be afraid to leave New York and go elsewhere. I think that's one of the best things that happened to me, that I live in several different cities as well during my 10 years. Now I'm in San Francisco, California. So just make sure that you guys are open-minded, and definitely just be happy with whatever decisions you make. And if you feel like you get stuck at your job, don't be afraid to start interviewing again and find something new. That's what I did. Every 2 to 3 years, I feel like I plateaued with the team I'm on. So I always look for a new team, or I go join a new company. So definitely do that, and just keep on improving, and you guys will be successful. I want all you guys to be better than me, so that's why feel free to like contact me whenever you guys can. Add me on LinkedIn, and don't be afraid to like leave a message, and I'll go ahead and answer you guys questions there.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dimitri. This was such a spirited conversation, also an inspirational one, and great that I was able to bring back you to come and help the students. This is great. Life is coming full circle. Just a couple of years ago, we were these students looking for guidance, and now you're helping them out. Is it okay if we share your LinkedIn and the follow-up email to the group?
Oh yeah. It was already added to the chat, so.
It smells on top of everything.
Yeah.
It smell keeps the light on at this place. So yeah, thank you so much to you students for joining us today. We look forward to continuing bringing speakers like Dimitri, who have real world experience to help you guys build your careers. We want to see you guys get jobs. We want to see you guys be successful. And so just thank you for making the time to invest in yourself and your time. And then lastly, I would just encourage you guys to get involved with the incubator. You can visit our website. This session today is recorded. It will go up on YouTube. It will be shared with you guys. So just make sure you're on the lookout in your emails over the next, day or two to get the link to the video. And just once again, thank you for coming, and have a great day, everybody.
Take care, everyone. Good luck. Okay. Bye.